What's up there, everyone? It's GG Sober Son out here at the GINS, G-I-N-S, Gulf Islands National Seashore. I love this area. There's no condos built out here. The only structures are some, you can see like way down there, just some pavilions and whatnot in the center of the screen right now. And that is where that's Opal Beach. But other than that, there's really no structures, just some parking areas out here. It's lovely. April the 6th. All alcoholics have personality problems. They drink to escape from life, to counteract feelings of loneliness or inferiority, or because some emotional conflict within them, so that they cannot adjust themselves to life. Oh, that cracks me up. All alcoholics have personality problems. Like, duh. Alcoholics cannot stop drinking unless they find a way to solve their personality problems. That's why going on the wagon doesn't solve anything. That's why taking the pledge usually doesn't work. Was my personality problem ever solved by going on the wagon or taking the pledge? Now, this language is very early AA type language. Taking the pledge was during Prohibition. I think they would take a temperance pledge. In other words, they would, swear with or without a solemn oath to never drink alcohol, that kind of thing, or swear off of it, as you may have heard more recently. Also, going on the wagon was a water wagon, apparently, and the guys who were hungover from drinking too much the night before, because alcohol dehydrates you, they would stick close to the wagon or ride on the wagon so they can get hydrated the next day on their trip west back in the pioneer days. I don't know if it goes that far back, but that's one version I heard. So that kind of explains that language. But all alcoholics have personality problems. We wouldn't drink to excess if we didn't have some deep-seated issue, whether it was trauma from our past or just inability to deal with life on life's terms. Now, in the doctor's opinion, it talks about how men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. Well, yeah, it takes away our give a shit. It's like, I say I was always given, or I always felt like everybody else got the manual on how to live life, and I didn't get the manual, but I felt like a piece of crap because I didn't know what was in the manual. I heard things growing up like Jesus loves me, yes I know, for the Bible tells me so, and I would sing that, but those were churchy things, and that didn't seem to apply to my daily life, and that inability to feel like I fit in anywhere. I mean, middle school, I was over 6 feet tall, about $150, and I stuck out. Red hair, big ears, zits, and I stuck out head and shoulders above my peers. And the first time I drank alcohol and felt the effects, other than just the warm sensation going down my throat and into my stomach, that sense of ease and comfort, it took away my give a shit. I didn't care that I didn't fit in. And I wanted more of the same, for sure. Even when I got negative consequences from my drinking, I ended up being kind of like a celebrity the next school day, the following Monday. and that just added to my desire to drink as much alcohol as possible. But the doctor's opinion goes on to say something about the same person who had so many problems he despaired of ever solving them can easily now overcome them by following a few simple rules. And that's the doctor's way of phrasing it. We know they're not rules, that they're suggestions, 12 suggestions that if we live them in all areas of our life, we can be free of alcohol. We can be free of the obsession of the mind that would otherwise lead us to a drink that then would kick off the phenomenon of craving. We don't have to do that. The doctor's opinion, again, going back to that, says that we are restless, irritable, and discontent until we can experience that sense of ease and comfort of taking a few drinks, right? So we're restless, irritable, and discontent because we've already decided in recovery that I can no longer drink safely. I can no longer enjoy and control my drinking because of the disease, whether it was developed or whether I was born with it. I do not know. I do know that it became problematic, that once I had a couple of drinks, or even one drink for that matter, because that set off the phenomenon of craving, that I craved the second drink more than I did that first one, and I craved the third one more than I did the second one. And it just continued to double down on itself until I was passed out, broke, or in blackout. And so I don't want to go there again. Meditation for the day. God irradiates your life with the warmth of His Spirit. God irradiates your life with the warmth of His Spirit. You must open up like a flower to this divine irradiation. Loosen your hold on earth, its cares and its worries. Unclasp your hold on material things. Relax your grip, and the tide of peace and serenity will flow in. Relinquish every material thing and receive it back again from God. Oh, do not hold on to earth's treasures so firmly that your hands are too occupied to clasp God's hands as He holds them out to you in love. Come on. Surrender everything to Him. Surrender everything to Him. Now, I don't think it necessarily means you got to go turn everything in to go to church and just give over all your worldly possessions to Him. But you can surrender it to Him in that, God, you do with it whatever you want, right? So just like anything, like your phone, well, it can be a source of contact. And in this case, I'm recording this on my phone. It can be a source or an avenue of staying in contact with friends and family and other people in recovery and things like that. But it can also be the very method that leads you astray. You know what I mean? For a lot of guys, they struggle with pornography or hookup apps and stuff like that. And, it can be like any big city. There's great things about living in a big city, and then there's terrible things about living in a big city. But surrendering it all to God and saying, thy will, not mine, be done with this thing, this object, this item, this money, this, yeah, whatever. You know, I just know that I can't surrender alcohol and say, okay, I want to try it, God. Now I'll surrender I'll surrender that to you. There's such a thing as not tempting God, right? And if, you know, I've often said that if science came up with a medication that could take away the alcoholic effects, make an alcoholic into a non-alcoholic, which naltrexone, I think. I can't remember if I'm saying it right, but I learned about a medication when I was working at my the first rehab I worked at. Naltrexone, I think. It was like a once a month injection. They said that people who take this injection can drink normally, right? But of course they had liver problems. They were concerned about liver problems, right? Because they could drink normally without, I don't know if it was they just didn't get drunk or what, but they, like any alcoholic, they were drinking to excess anyway, and they just, you know, trying to get that sense of ease and comfort, I guess, and they couldn't get it, so they just kept trying until their liver was screwed, right? So I don't know if that's, you know, the case with all, you know, all alcoholics, but they did say, and this was the pharmaceutical industry rep that was at the facility, they did say that people who they were fine while they were getting the injection each month, but then when they couldn't afford the injection, which I can't even remember how much it was, but I do recall it being very, very expensive. So when they stopped the injections, their life went to crap because the effects of alcohol caught up with them. And so, why? Right? I would not miss, and it talks about this in working with others, I would not miss what I've received in the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. I was up in Albany, Georgia, visiting my sister and brother-in-law. My mom lives there, and my aunt lives there now. And I finally hit an AA meeting. They've lived up there for over a year, about a year and a half now. And every other time I've been up there, my girlfriend at the time and we looked for a meeting like on a Sunday morning, but there wasn't any. You know, that was like the only time we were going to be able to make it, and we couldn't find any within like 50 miles. So and it just seems like the timing hasn't been right every time I've been up there, and so I finally hit one, and it was just like, welcome home, you know. I actually hit a couple. I hit the speaker meeting on Saturday night, and then they had a 12:30 p.m. That's what it was. Sonia and I were heading back down to Florida before noon, so we weren't able to hit that later one. But that's so important to meet friends you haven't met yet. You know, there are friends in recovery around the world that we haven't met yet, and that's so important. And I wouldn't miss that. That's what the chapter, Working with Others, says. This is something we do not want you to miss. You know, to help others recover, to watch them help others recover, and so on. And you get to see the power of God work mightily in people's lives. And I don't think in this case, and there are so many religious people, well, one for sure, Father Richard Rohr, who is a Franciscan monk who wrote a book about the 12 steps. And he came across the 12 steps because his first place where he lived in Cincinnati, as a as a priest, was right next door to a recovery clubhouse, and he was a smoker, so we'd go out there and hang out with the drunks after a meeting or whatever, and talk with the alcoholics. Well, they made him an honorary member of their club, of their meetings and clubhouse, and so he could come into any closed meeting that he wanted to, apparently, as I understand the story. And so he realized, he was like, his words were, "You people get it." He's like, "We're trying to teach this, what you all just kind of get naturally. We're trying to teach that in the Catholic Church." And and so he wrote an entire book, Breathing Underwater, it's called. Breathing Underwater, Spirituality in the 12 Steps by Father Richard Rohr. If you ever care to look it up, I may put it in the description section below if I can figure out how to do that, because I'm fairly new to this. But have a look at it. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may be open to receiving God's blessing. I pray that I may be willing to relinquish my hold on material things and receive them back from God. You know, I'm praying that I can relinquish a lot of the stuff. This is my personal thing. I'm a bit of a hoarder, or I struggle with being or feeling secure without having a lot of things. You know, I might need that someday. I don't know if anybody else can relate or not, but you know, but I also know that as a person who has struggled with the effects of attention deficit disorder, having a lot of clutter around me is not helpful for my condition. It does not create a serene environment. So right now I'm going through and doing certain rooms. Like right now my bedroom is almost immaculate. You know, I've got a plant in there, but you know, I try to put everything away and close the doors to my closet, just get into those nuclear habits, micro habits that do accumulate over time, but trying to do that. But I also need to pare down my possessions. I need to go through every box. I've moved quite a few times over the years, especially being in the military, and you know, especially being in the military when my Uncle Sam, your Uncle Sam, paid for the move, the movers would just come in and they'd get paid by the weight. So they would pack anything and everything. And of course, they don't know what not to pack. And unless you go through and tell them ahead of time, don't pack this, don't pack that, they will pack your garbage. I've heard stories like that, you know, they'll pack up garbage. But anyway, I just knew that they would pack it, and the more I got promoted, the more weight I was allowed. So I never really worried about going through my stuff and paring down. And now, you know, I live in a townhouse, and I've got boxes of things that still have tags on them from when I moved, I don't know, for the first time from England, you know? So for me, it's about making those decisions, like, do I really need this, or is this an insecurity type thing? I love what, what's her name? Marie Kondo, Japanese Art of Tidying Up. She wrote that book, and I have followed her advice several times. I've pared down, at least used her process for paring down my clothing, where she talks about putting everything in a big pile, all of your clothing, all of it in a pile in the middle of a room, and you go through and you touch each item of clothing, and unless it sparks joy, that's her thing, tuck, it's got to spark joy, you get rid of it. You thank it for its service to you. Even if it still has the tags on it, if it doesn't spark joy, you thank it for its service and you donate it or throw it away or what have you. And I've done that several times over the years since discovering that. And I need to do the same thing again so that I can declutter and live a more serene life and live a more focused life. Not just serenity, but more focused. If I'm constantly searching for lost things as well, that's not helpful. That's not the wisest and most valuable use of my time. So I'm walking away from the Gulf, so I'm hoping I might be able to catch a glimpse of the sun setting over Santa Rosa Sound toward the Pensacola way. But anyway, yeah, I think that to be able to let go of that feeling a certain level of security by having things, you know what I mean? And I mean, there is planning ahead. Like, I drive an electric car, and I took the 200-mile trip up to Albany, Georgia to visit my family. And I have to have different types of chargers and adapters, just to try to accommodate any contingency that may come up with my ability to charge my car. So that's important, right? Having you see, I know I'm talking myself into keeping all this stuff in my car. It's important to have a first aid kit. It's important to have this, that, and the other thing. A football. It's nice to have a football to throw around, or a baseball and 2 baseball gloves, because it doesn't make any sense just to have one baseball glove. I mean, what are you gonna just throw it to yourself? I guess you could, but it's funner with somebody else. But it's like the inability to make a decision on getting rid of something as well. And I think, just like with anything that I've learned about thoughts or things like that, taking every thought captive to Christ, every insecurity, every doubt, every fear especially. And I think that's what has been ruling my life a lot lately, because I spot it in other people. It was easier for me to spot fear in my last long-term relationship, in her. Oh, you're living in fear, and that kind of thing. When AA has taught me, if I spot it, I got it. And so letting go of all these things that I think is going to keep me from fear, that only compounds the fear, really. Because if I feel less fear because I have it, what's going to happen when I don't? When and if I don't? When and if I lose it? And I think that's what that prayer is talking about, surrender that to God, surrender all that stuff to God, and then receive it back from Him and hold on loosely. So important. It's a live and learn and love and growing program, y'all. Keep on keeping on. Look up, aim up, and rise up. Love you.